A woman with a screaming child looked at my girlfriend and said, "Birth control, honey, how have strangers made your day?" Oh, there are so many stories, but this one always takes the cake. This isn't the first time I've talked about it, but, well, it's really special to me. My parents and I were in China, adopting a little girl with special needs. She had a cleft lip and palate. When we received her, we also got a note in Chinese that explained what exactly we were doing with the little Chinese girl, to show to any locals curious about it. A couple of days after we picked her up, my dad, my baby sister, and I were walking the streets around our hotel when a policeman stopped us, gesturing to my sister and all. My dad showed him the note, and after he read it, he said in slow, but clear English, "Thank you for your kindness to China." I know it was more directed at my father, of course, but that statement simply, well, it still resonates with me 5 years later. As someone born with this and who knows how hard it can be in non-Western countries to get the surgeries needed for that condition, have a hug and an upvote. 3. A little Chinese lady came into our store and wanted to buy an iPad. She had literally no idea how it worked, or really anything to do with technology. She just knew it could do FaceTime, and that FaceTime would allow her to see her kids, who were studying abroad. She wanted it because calling them was costing them all a lot of money, and she wanted to stay in touch with them on a regular basis. I helped her get her iPad, and sat down with her to show her how to use it. Given that she didn't really understand anything other than FaceTime, and that in a limited capacity, I knew it would take a while, but we weren't terribly busy, so I showed her a good deal about what all the machine could do, introduced her to the wonders of Google, all the neat stuff in the App Store, so on and so forth. Finally, we got her set up with FaceTime, and she put in the contact information of her son, who was in Italy. Turns out, he was online, so she gave him a call. Due to the time difference, he was about to go to sleep, so she more or less tucked him in and wished him sweet dreams. Up until this point, she hadn't really said much. She spoke in a harsh, broken English that made it a bit difficult to communicate, but she repeated everything I did and got it all down really quickly. She turned to me, teary-eyed, gently held my hand and said, "Sorry, I am too happy. You have changed everything for me." It was such an emotional moment. I nearly broke down too. I walked her out of the store and wished her a good day, and she said, "You made it a good day." Very heartwarming. As someone who keeps in touch with my dad 99% through the internet, this gives me feels. So my whole family was on a plane to Florida. My dad was wearing a pair of those zip-off pants that could be turned into shorts. Since we were coming from Michigan in February, he was wearing them as pants, and he asked my mom if he could unzip his pants now, meaning turn them into shorts. Just after, a guy in the row over said, "Wait until you get to the hotel room and the kids aren't around." We were in tears laughing. I like your username. It made me happy. Once my car broke down within 100 yards or so of a mechanic, I begin pushing my car towards said mechanic. I successfully get it all the way to the left turn lane that into the shopping center the mechanic is in. Mind you, I'm by myself and dripping with sweat at this point. I'm not sure how I'm going to steer the car that sharply and still be able to push at the same time. This isn't something I practice often. I begin my approach, but it's taking quite a long time to get through the traffic signal. At least it was a left arrow and not an unprotected turn. Of course, my arrow turns red and oncoming traffic turns green. I get more honks than I would expect from a bunch of cars that can clearly see my struggle. Fortunately, a total stranger on a run, without breaking stride, swings out from the sidewalk and gets behind my car and starts pushing. He pushes with me all the way to the mechanic driveway and I'm easily able to steer into an appropriate parking spot. He loops back around, still not breaking stride, and waves bye to me and says, "Hope the rest of your day goes better," and runs off. Never saw him again, but I'd like to give him a fresh batch of still warm homemade chocolate chip cookies for the fuzzy warm feeling he gave me that day. I was buying a book called On Being Certain, Believing You Are Right Even When You're Not, and the clerk looked at me and said, "Are you sure you want to buy this?" "Yes, then you don't need it." I was feeling depressed while walking home from school and had a lot on my mind. Suddenly this old man shows up and says, "Well, look at you. You look fantastic," while giving me a big smile. Made my day. Yesterday, I was lectured by a random man in a breakfast restaurant about how you should always tell people when they look good. You don't know if the person is having a bad day or may feel depressed from time to time, and your comment could save their day. It was an incredibly philosophical conversation for a stranger, but maybe he was right. I was at the library trying to finish my organic chemistry work before I had to leave for class, and I was sitting next to this older gentleman. I remember he looked over at what I was doing, stared for a good minute, and then told me I'm a lot smarter than he'll ever be. Obviously it wasn't true, but it made me feel like a genius even though I had no idea what the heck I was doing. No one knows what they are doing in organic chemistry. 2 days ago I was at the mall with some friends and some random girl from across the way said, "Hey kid in the blue shirt." I was the only one in a blue shirt. "You're pretty." I couldn't think of anything to say, so I replied, "You too." Perfect response. I would have nodded and shuffled away. I was doing an internship in the ER of our local hospital during high school. While I kind of had the idea of going to med school to become a doctor, I wasn't at all sure yet. So this one day a bald, tall African American guy comes into the ER to get his cast removed. Mind you, living in a provincial area in Germany and only being 15 years old, I haven't had much contact with Americans. So we began chatting as his wife had proceeded to fill out some forms and left the room with the nurse. We started talking about university and med school and how hard it was to get a spot in the program. He then briefly paused and told me, "You will definitely make your way. Don't let anyone tell you any different," and he conveyed so much confidence that I was simply baffled. So I stood there, perplexed, as it is not very German to encourage someone in his plans for life you've just met several minutes ago. He could see me contemplating his words, and so he repeated, "Listen to me, you will make your way. Just be sure to never doubt your decision." So yeah, I thanked him, wished him the best of luck, left the room, and a strange sense of self-confidence flooded my system. I did actually start med school 3 years ago, and whenever I feel like I need a new batch of motivational sweetness, I remember the tall, bald American who came to have his cast removed. Beats Ritalin. Irrepressible optimism is perhaps the best national character trait that Americans have to offer. Congratulations on getting into med school, by the way. Was at a simple little rare and used bookstore run by an older gentleman who worked there. Picked up a book by Truman Capote, and as he rang the purchase up, he commented, "Lovely book, but he really was a nasty bee." It's the little things. I was humming a song while I was walking to work when a guy, walking in the opposite direction, picked up on it and started singing it quietly. It wasn't loud enough for many people to hear, but it made my day. I was working at a fast food burger joint, sweaty, covered in fry grease, when a guy pulled up to get his order and said, "Oh my god," and I replied, "What?" and he said, "You're beautiful." I was about 11 years old and went to a local steakhouse with my parents. It was the middle of the holiday season. Snow was falling outside, and I was at the age when I was feeling ready to stop believing. We are in this crowded restaurant, and an overweight man with a white beard sits down next to us. You know where this is going. I stare at him for a few minutes, and then go about my meal. Halfway through our dinner, he looks at me and asks me how my meal is, how my parents are, how things in our house a few miles down the road are. Tells me I'm on the nice list and wishes me a Merry Christmas as he gets up. Dude made my night and is one of my best holiday memories. Nice. I was eating at a barbecue place one time during the season and I saw this seriously Claus-esque man sitting a few tables over. He noticed me staring and gave me a sly wink. I was convinced for far too long after that. Me and my girlfriend were riding in the bed of a pickup truck wearing matching sunglasses, and we stopped at a light next to these two black ladies. The lady in the passenger seat pointed at us and said, "Those is some fly cats." Reality, I left my credit card at home and had 2 kids at the store with me and a cart full of melting groceries and frozen foods. The person behind me saw me upset I had left my card at home and noticed my kids getting antsy, too. He reached in his wallet and bought my entire cart full of groceries for me, all $67 worth. I was so thankful and embarrassed at the same time. I couldn't stop saying thank you. About a month later, I went shopping again at the same store and happened to have the same cashier as when the gentleman paid my bill. She said she remembered me and she couldn't believe that the man had paid for all my groceries until he told her why. Apparently the man's daughter and his 2 grandsons had been hit by a drunk driver about 2 months earlier and killed instantly. He told the cashier my kids reminded him of his grandchildren and he just wanted to see someone smile for a change, since he rarely does anymore. I was in tears by time I left the store. I will never forget that. If you keep going back to the same grocery store, perhaps you will run into that kind gentleman again and you can invite him over for dinner. He'll probably say no, but tell him you won't take no for an answer and that his kids would love it. Pro tip: when grocery shopping in the summer, bring a large plastic cooler, the soft kind, with ice packs in it to put the perishables in. I was playing the piano in what I thought was an empty room on my campus a few years ago. As I was about to leave, I spotted someone who was doing their coursework on a table not far from me, and had apparently been there the whole time. I apologized for disturbing him while he was trying to work. He said it wasn't a problem and asked me to play a couple of the songs again, which I did. As I left he thanked me and said I'd made his day so much better, which in turn improved mine a heck of a lot. The day after I found out my ex had been cheating on me, I went out to breakfast with some friends. This old lady was sitting next to us and overheard me telling my friends what had happened. When I had finished, she leaned over and said, "You know, of all the pain I've felt in my life, short of losing my husband, being 2-timed was the worst. But I stayed strong, and eventually I met my husband, the love of my life. Don't give up on yourself, and don't you dare give up on love. You will find someone who loves and respects you the way you clearly love and respect yourself." And with that, she left and I sobbed into my plate of waffles. Happy tears, but tears nevertheless. I'm never gonna forget that lady, and I'm never gonna forget what she said. I refuse to. I was at the park when I spotted a cop car driving slowly around on the grass. The cop stopped, rolled down the window, and with a big smile on his face just said "driving on the grass" to me, rolled up his window, and continued on his way, driving on the grass. The police is fricking the police. I'm 15 working in a grocery store stocking shelves, South Florida, 23 years ago. This old lady walks by me talking to herself. 20 paces back, her old disheveled husband. I realize that her rant is clearly meant for him. He walks by my cart, stops, looks up, stares right into my soul and says, "Don't ever get married." He shuffles away. Surprise twist, the man's not the woman's husband, and just did that to frick with you. I was working at a pharmacy on Christmas Eve. Because we were open that day, our boss let us dress up in Christmas white clothes instead of wearing our usual smocks. So I decided to wear this short-sleeved sweater that wasn't exactly a turtleneck, but it had an appropriate cut for work so that it wasn't too revealing. By the way, I am female. This older couple comes in to pick up their prescriptions. They were both about 80. The woman immediately says how she loves my sweater and asks me where I got it. I told her and she said, "Now I just wish I had the boobs to fill it out," as quick as he could. The husband says, "Hey, I wish you had the boobs to fill it out." That had me chuckling all day. I didn't even mind having to work on Christmas Eve. Most of us knew you were a female when you said you have a short-sleeved sweater. I was in a really long line for the bathroom, and some dude came out of the stall, had a big inhale of air, and said, "It's a brand new day today," pointed at me and said, "You are in for the pee of a lifetime, my friend," and walked away. An old Japanese man once shook, then kissed my hand in an empty train carriage. I'm a dude. This didn't make my day, but it did make it very memorable. You handsome devil, you. It was about midnight on the 4th of July and my girlfriend and I had just finished watching fireworks downtown. Rather than jamming onto the crowded subway, we opened a bottle of wine in a secluded courtyard. Even though we missed the last train, it seemed worth it. The weather was perfect and we were not ready to let the night end. After about a half hour of whispering sweet nothings and being all romantic, I spotted 3 guys approaching. They weren't walking as much as bouncing along. They were making noise but they didn't seem like trouble, so I just ignored them and assured my girlfriend it was fine. About 50 feet across the courtyard, and the 3 took notice of us. They slowed to a stop, and while they did, the noise they were making slowly emerged as a beat and backup vocals. They then proceeded to belt out the best version of Tell Me Something Good by Rufus Shaka Khan that I've ever heard. They went on for a good 5 minutes, maybe longer, as my lady and I watched in awe. They were amazing. When they finished, all they said was Happy 4th and then ran off before I could ask who they were or anything. It made our night and I couldn't stop smiling for days. TLDR. 3 guys saw me and my girlfriend having a moment and stopped to perform an impressive rendition of a romantic song, and then ran off. A stranger actually played DDR with me in a rather competitive dance battle. It was epic, and then I found out that he's a dance teacher. My first job was working at Rite Aid. I had to work on Thanksgiving. I helped an old lady carry her stuff into the car. She tipped me $5 and said, "Here me Joe, buy a hamburger." It was only $5, but it really made my day. She probably called you me Joe, which is a Spanish term of endearment. It means my son, and is an incredibly sweet thing, especially coming from a stranger. Needed a large shelving unit for media, and while walking down the street, saw a beautiful, perfect shelf, with molding, and a sign that said Adopt Me. I was about 2 miles from home. This thing was about 6 feet tall and very heavy, but it would be mine. I started on my journey, carrying it for small distances at a time before taking a rest. People offered to help, but I had so far to go. I thanked them and carried on my own. I had maybe 1/3 of a mile to go when a man approached me and insisted on helping. I tried telling him I was good, but he wouldn't have it. I drive a city bus and I'm on lunch break. Let's go. On his lunch break, this gentleman helped load me onto his bus. Careful, don't bang up your new shelf, and drop me off at my front door. He refused any money or food and just insisted I help someone out who needs it. I've done my best to honor that. TLDR. I'm a bus. Today you, tomorrow me. On the way to Florida with a friend's family, we were stuck in a traffic jam for hours. We were trying to get to an exit to grab some lunch, but traffic hadn't moved. As a 10-year-old, I was restless and thought I was starving. Next to us was an RV full of black women having a great time dancing, singing, and eating Cracker Jacks. The woman driving the RV saw us and shouted, "Get those girls some Cracker Jacks." They got to be hungry and handed us a brand new box of Cracker Jacks, fries and all. I don't know why they had so many boxes of Cracker Jacks, but my friend and I sure appreciated it. I was picking up my upset girlfriend from work as she had had a terrible day. We were walking home and a little girl came up to her and just said, "You're really beautiful," and then skipped off. At this point my girlfriend burst into tears. It was really sweet. I feel like doing this all the time. So many beautiful people out there, and not just for stereotypical reasons, but it would probably come off as being really creepy. My sister was walking on the street in the downtown of our city, having just seen Mamma Mia. She was singing, "Mamma Mia, here I go again," at which point a gangster looking dude and his girlfriend responded, my, how can I resist you?" It was at that moment that she reflected that her life had become a musical. My friends and I went through a similar incident. We were all singing Poor Unfortunate Souls at the top of our lungs walking down the street about 9 o'clock at night. These really preppy girls on the other side of the street starting singing too with just as much gusto. It was awesome. Christmas, 1990. We were poor as frick that year. Barely had food. It's Christmas morning, and me and my mom wake up and do our broke butt Christmas thing. You know, new socks in crappy wrapping paper for me, some crappy school-made thing for her. We settle down with our cereal and start eating when there's a knock on the door. My mom answers the door and starts crying. I'm like, WTF, and run over, and there's motherfucking Santa. He said something about how this fell off his sleigh and he had to make a special trip to bring it back to me. It was a brand new NES with Super Mario Bros. 3. My mom, to this day, still has no idea who the heck it was. What do you mean she doesn't know who it was? It was Santa Man. Kids make the parents sometimes. I was having dinner at a Cracker Barrel with my family and I see this huge tattooed beast of man walk in, stereotypical biker garb, and a face that would crack marble. Behind him, skipping behind, is the cutest 4-year-old little girl singing and skipping to the table, spotlessly clean in a pink outfit and happy as a lark. "Daddy, can I get pancakes?" Sure pumpkin. You can get pancakes. You want Mickey Mouse pancakes? Yes, please. A minute later the girl must have had to go potty, so the dad gets up and escorts her to the bathroom while he waits outside. A rowdy crew of local redneck teens walk in cussing and cracking crude jokes. Luckily my kids had gone to the store area but I was waiting for the bill. I couldn't wait for these two forces to meet. Almost on cue the little girl comes skipping in and shortly behind comes dad. The rednecks didn't notice and kept spouting off profanities and jokes until the dad gets up, walks over and says something. I would have gladly paid to be a fly on the wall. The whole crew was silent except for short answers to the waitress. My friends and I were bored last week and found a nearby karaoke bar to go to. We get to the place and we all feel a bit out of place. It's very DIY and everyone is dressed differently, but they all look like regulars because they all seem to know each other. So my two friends and I feel awkward and naturally stick together like a bunch of saps. We're sitting at a table and I'm checking a text I just received. When I look up, I see a new girl sitting in front of me. She introduced herself then says, I'm into girls, and I just wanted to say that you're the most beautiful girl I've seen all day. I was totally caught off guard and only managed to smile and thank her. She complimented my skirt. We high-fived, and then she went back to her table. When I left, she waved to me, and I waved back. Now, I'm not a person with outstanding self-esteem, and I've been downish for the past few months due to college. I'm relatively self-conscious and don't really think of myself as pretty. The only person who's really ever said that I'm beautiful is my boyfriend. I don't generally get compliments about or attention from how I look, strangers or not. It really made my day and made me happier, and I wish I could have further shown my appreciation. I was just surprised and not used to receiving compliments on my appearance by strangers, so I didn't really know how to react. But Angel, if you ever read this, I just want to say thank you, because you really made my day. I was in an elevator at a hotel and I almost knocked over all this man's food which he was carrying to his room, and then he looked me straight in the eye and said, hey, you almost made me drop my food. Fat people don't like that. I couldn't stop laughing. Dang, didn't think such a short story could me make laugh so hard. I had to switch over phones for a customer but he was preoccupied that he was gonna lose his voicemails, which some of them were from his deceased, so after switching them over, he panics because the new phone doesn't say X amount of voicemails. I panic inwardly, but tell him to check. He checks his voicemail and smiles. After he hangs up he says, thank you. You don't know what that does to a guy. Hugs me then leaves. He left me in tears in the middle of the store. Another one. Same company, different store. Last year was a gentleman who I have helped before. He has a stutter and since I've shown patience with assisting him, he only comes to see me. It had been a while since I had seen him, and he comes in and says hi. We make small talk and I mention that I had gotten married a month ago. He smiles and we finish talking and he leaves. A while later he comes back and gives me a card congratulating me on my marriage. Oh man. Started tearing up right there. Of course I thanked him. Still same company, but at a different store now. I come in for my usual shift when a co-worker tells me a gentleman was looking for me earlier but told him to come back around this time, cause that was my shift. Later on, I come out on the floor after another tells me a customer is looking for me. Lo and behold, it was the gentleman with the stutter. He came all the way to see me at my new store. He went to the other location and was told I was at a different one, and since he was in the area he decided to visit me. Put a smile on my face for the whole day. Come on, she's obviously responding well and he's done nothing outside of her work. A loyal customer who highly appreciates the work she does, not a stalker. I was having a crappy day and it was Valentine's Day. I was single and very happy about it. Crappy day because of unrelated things. I'm walking back to my car and a taller guy with long hair and a soft, shy sounding voice wishes me a happy Valentine's Day. I cried of happiness the whole drive home. Really wish I could see him again. Craigslist, missed connections. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.